The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Welcome to the Wakefield weather briefing for Thursday, August 29th, as we get ready to head into the Labor Day weekend. This is Eric Seymour from the Weather Service in Wakefield, going to go through what we can expect over the next, through the holiday weekend and into early next week. So wanted to start off taking a look at kind of where we are right now. And you can see these are the current heat index values across the area. Generally, we're looking, most of the readings are in the mid to upper 90s. We're seeing a few 100-degree heat index values. So we are warming up, and that's what we've been kind of talking about for the last few days. And we've got the heat advisory in place for the area, for most of the area for today, outside of the Delmarva Peninsula areas where it's not quite expected to get quite as warm up there. So don't have it really in place there. We'll also take a look as we kind of go through the briefing this morning, looking at kind of the setup for the potential for some stronger storms this afternoon and some heavy rainfall, and just kind of get everybody set up and ready for that. So I'm going to slide this guy out of the way at the moment. We're going to jump into the briefing part. So just trying to hit the highlights of what we're going to expect today. We talked about the heat advisory is already in place, looking for values of 103 to 107 possible. And I'll show you graphically in a moment where that advisory is in place for. The big thing tonight is we do have a cold front that's up to the north right now, but kind of across the near the Mason-Dixon line. It's going to be dropping southward during the day today, gradually sinking into our area before it kind of stalls out across north, kind of the Virginia-North Carolina border later tonight and during the day tomorrow. So that is going to be a focus for generating some showers and thunderstorms. And the thing that we're looking at with the thunderstorms right now is that they don't have a lot of, the speed of movement with them is going to be fairly slow. So the ones that do pop up this afternoon could produce some heavy rainfall just because they're not moving that fast to get out of the, to move out of the area they're in. So we could see some heavy rainfall totals with that. Then we look into the weekend. Things get a little bit better on Saturday. Saturday's probably going to be the driest day we can expect. And then we do have another front that's coming in on Sunday afternoon into Monday. So expecting to see another chance for some more rain. Maybe not quite as widespread as what we're getting today, but does look like kind of a decent chance of rain late Sunday afternoon, Sunday night into Monday. So that's kind of the highlights. So you can see looking at the pattern for the week, you can see the front that's up to the north trying to make its way down into our area later today. And then that front's kind of going to stall out, and because that's going to become a nice focusing mechanism for showers and thunderstorms to develop along. Also, we don't have a lot of speed of movement with the system, so we could see some decent rainfall with those storms as they move through today, later this afternoon into the overnight hours, and then even lingering tomorrow, especially in the southeastern part of our area during the day tomorrow as that front lingers, kind of washes out. Then we're waiting for that next front that's going to be moving across the upper Midwest, dropping through the Great Lakes, and then eventually pushing down in through the mid-Atlantic states. And if you think about kind of how the weather was last week, where it was, the temperatures were very mild, not a lot of humidity. Looks like we may potentially see a repeat of that next week, where we kind of see those same type of conditions where we get out of the humidity and temperatures are pretty pleasant. So that's kind of what the overall pattern looks like. So you can see here's the severe thunderstorm potential for today. We do have a marginal risk covering most of our forecast area for potential for some severe weather, and most of that threat would be from the threat of damaging wind, and then also some heavy rainfall. So I'm going to pull back over and show some of the different. This is off the SPC page. If I can, there we go. So we're just going to take a look at a couple of the different model runs. This is the HRRR, the rapid refresh model. And we're running it, looking at from the runs from overnight last night. The new runs right now are just starting to come in. But the thing you'll notice is there's not much activity. This is at noon today, not much activity going on. As we move forward, even out to about 4 o'clock, you're just starting to see some stuff popping in the higher terrain, maybe one or two storms trying to pop up over parts of central Virginia. But then as we move through ahead the next couple of hours, you can see it really blossoms and then starts to head down into the area and spreads across, especially the western parts of the area, so kind of west of I-95, and then slowly expands as we go through the evening hours toward the coast. So that's the HRRR. The NAM solution is very similar. You know, if we pop back 16, 17Z, we're pretty dry. And as we move ahead toward about 4 o'clock, we're seeing some stuff pop up. This has a little bit more developing, really kind of along the I-64 corridor. That's kind of where that front's starting to back in. We're also seeing, at least in that model, some higher concentration of moisture in that area, which is one reason why the model is really starting to trigger and develop more precipitation there. And then gradually you see the stuff that develops to the west starts to spread east and then heads toward the coast, although it does start to weaken as it reaches toward the coast, which goes along with what we're seeing from the Storm Prediction Center. So the high resolution models are really they're all kind of keying in on seeing stuff develop, especially, you know, probably mid to late afternoon, kind of in the higher terrain, maybe along the Piedmont, and then gradually, slowly moving eastward more into the I-95 corridor as we get to the, you know, maybe 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock hours, and starts to slide eastward. So the thing is, you weren't seeing a great deal of movement. The speed of movement is not all that great. As a result, anything that does develop precip wise should, end up, could be some locally high amounts in those areas where the precip does develop because it's just not moving very fast. So, so this is kind of what we're expecting from a severe threat. Let's go ahead and jump ahead and look at the flood watch. You can see where the flood watch is in effect, kind of, along the I-95 corridor in areas to the north and west of Richmond, so Farmville up to Louisa. Right now, we think that's probably where the best concentration is. And again, we're dealing with storms that just aren't moving very fast. So that's kind of why the areas right now is kind of small. We'll see how the new models come in here this afternoon. It's potential we could end up expanding this a little bit, but right now, we think that's kind of the best target area. And that fits in very nicely with what we're seeing from the Storm Prediction Center on their excessive rainfall outlook for today, really kind of targeting that northwest portion of our area, basically from kind of 460 on northward and west of I-95. All right, so here gives you an idea of where how much rainfall we're expecting. You're looking for 1 inch or 2 of rain in that, generally speaking, in that flash flood area. But again, you're going to see some locally higher amounts. It would not surprise me to see somebody come in with, 2 to 3, maybe even potentially 4 inches, just with the speed of movement. And if you get several cells training over that same area. So that's why we're looking at the potential for the flash flood threat in that area, just kind of where the heavy rainfall is. The rest of the area, that front's going to kind of move down through, should see a better concentration of showers and storms down toward the Norfolk and, the Tidewater area, maybe down even into eastern North Carolina on Friday. As that front moves in, kind of stalls across that area before it gradually dissipates by the time we get to Saturday. So that's kind of where we're looking at from the rainfall amounts for the next, kind of 72 hours out through Sunday morning. As we look, the map on the right, we can see Sunday and beyond there. You can kind of give an idea where you're not looking at potentially maybe another 1/4 to 1/2 inch, maybe up to 3/4 of an inch as that next front comes down in there Sunday evening into Monday. So, that's kind of where we're looking for the rainfall there. Once we get beyond that front, on Monday, it's going to be dry throughout the rest of that period. So it's really going to be kind of these two boundaries that we're dealing with between now and kind of Monday midday for our rainfall. All right, so there's your total rainfall for 7 days. Again, this time of year, an average rainfall for the week is about 7/10 to 3/4 of an inch of rain. So for this period of time, we would be well above normal. We still, especially kind of in the northwest counties, we're still seeing a little bit of abnormally dry conditions. So in some respects, this rainfall could be pretty beneficial. And we have been pretty dry over the last kind of 10 to 12 days. So some additional rainfall would not be the worst for most areas. All right, heat index values today. You can see the heat index values, generally speaking, somewhere, in that 103 to 107 range. high temperatures getting up in the mid 90s, maybe a few upper 90s. The dew points are kind of hanging out in the in the mid 70s. Altogether, that gives you the heat index values getting up up into that advisory category. So, folks that are going to be outside today need to be taking precautions. Make sure we're getting plenty of fluids in, getting some breaks, getting in out of the heat. Finding shade, getting inside for some air conditioning, things like that. Waiting till maybe later this evening if you can for some of those things. I know for some activities, sometimes you can't do that because especially if we're dealing with thunderstorm activity coming in and things you need to get done, sometimes you just have to kind of try to get through it. But if you do, take more breaks, allow a little bit more time as opposed to trying to, kind of work through normal workflows. So, that's kind of where we're looking at with the heat index values. And even in the wet bulb, globe, you can also see, a lot of places starting to push up into that red, into that, 88 to 90, where we're starting to get up into those areas where you really need to be taking quite a bit of break from what you're doing. So, again, don't push things out in the heat. Get in. If you start to feel some effects, get in, get some fluids in, get cooled down before anything worse gets going. All right, so you can see from the heat risk as we get through the weekend, still seeing a little bit of limited risk. Temperatures generally looking like we're going to be in the, maybe in the low 90s over the weekend. And so it's still going to be humid, but it's be kind of the that typical late summertime type of heat that we're looking at. Nothing that would get us up into the scenarios of needing a heat advisory or anything like that. As you can see, as we push into Monday, we'll really start to see the initial stages of knocking those temperatures down and knocking the threat down. So here are your temperature forecasts for kind of the next 5-6 days. You can see the highs today, especially, we get down to eastern North Carolina, southern Virginia. We're still pushing those 95, 96 degree readings, even up into Richmond. But notice the drop off to tomorrow. Things back off into the 80s, maybe even the upper 70s in the far northern parts of the area. And then Saturday and Sunday, you see a little bit of a build back up. Temperatures getting back up in the upper 80s to the lower 90s. Your heat index values kind of maxing out at the upper 90s to maybe right around 100. So that's kind of where we're thinking things are going to go at this point. And these values would be typical of late summer for the weekend. So it's going to be a little humid, a little bit uncomfortable at times, but overall not too bad. And then look out into Tuesday, you can see the temperatures as that front has gone through the drop off. We see readings back into the 70s, and even the low temperatures Tuesday morning, starting to see some of those 50-degree readings kicking back into the area. So maybe a first kind of initial taste of fall as we start the new week. All right, chances of precipitation. This kind of gives you kind of the target zones where we're looking. Again, we're looking at a lot of the afternoon and evening time frame. So 6 to 9 o'clock tonight, maybe even lingering some locations even after 12. And then again, as we get into the day on Friday, again, we're looking at afternoon and evening type of storms popping up. The higher concentrations kind of in the southern half of the area, not quite so much as we get farther to the north. And then Saturday, you see the amounts really kind of dropping off. Again, we're looking at kind of some scattered type of activity in the afternoon hours. A little bit better concentration on Sunday, a little higher chances Sunday into Sunday night. And then even in the south, even on Monday, still haven't quite got the front all the way through. So, down around the Albemarle Sound, could still see a decent chance of some afternoon showers and storms on Monday. But once we get beyond that, the threat for rainfall pretty much comes to an end. Looking at your marine threat, right now we do have small craft. They're going to be in effect for later today and tonight for the bay, the northern coastal waters. Looking at kind of some northerly winds, especially behind that front, getting up to around 20, maybe gust to 25. But then beyond that, conditions really aren't that bad through the weekend. We do get into an easterly flow setup on Saturday. But again, we're looking at 10 to 15 knots of easterly flow. May have a little bit of impact with the rip current threat, but overall, from a marine standpoint, not expecting any headlines there. And then the winds turn back to the southwest on Sunday out ahead of that cold front coming down. So the only other chance for some small craft conditions look like maybe behind that front on Monday into Tuesday. So that'll be something that we'll be watching over the next few days to see the timing on that front, see how things evolve over the next couple of days. So there's your marine threat. So you can see, some elevated threat, in the areas where we've got the small craft out today. And then as we get into the weekend, really the threat really is fairly mild, fairly diminished. Maybe a little bit of a better threat on Monday, again, behind that cold front. So these are your the graphics. You can see the probability or the wind speeds and the wind gust. Again, Thursday, this seems to be the, today seems to be the biggest threat with that for that advisory. And then the wave heights as well. All right, coastal flooding threat right now, just kind of some nuisance flooding threat with kind of as the scenarios evolving over the next couple of days with the front coming in, getting some northerly flow, things like that, and then some easterly flow. So we start to pile a little water up in the middle of the bay. But again, we're really just looking at nuisance stuff, maybe stuff that's maybe about a half foot above, kind of your highest astronomical tide, nothing that's going to get up into a warning type of a scenario there. The one thing we are watching as we get into, just to kind of keep an eye out as we get into early next week, once that front moves through and that high to the north starts to build down, we could have a persistent period of northeasterly flow Tuesday into Wednesday. So could see a little bit of a coastal flooding threat as we get into the midweek time frame next week. But we've got some time to look at that as we go through the weekend. So just kind of keep that in mind. There could be some coastal flood issues kind of the middle of the next week when we just due to the persistent northeasterly and easterly flow that we're expecting once that cold front goes through. Rip current forecast. Right now we got moderate up to the north for today. So all the Ocean City beaches down through Chincoteague do have a moderate threat there. As we get further south, Virginia Beach, Sandbridge, not quite as much today. So it's still in the low category there. But as we go through the weekend, we are anticipating moderate threat of rip current conditions really through most of the area. Sunday is a little bit questionable because once the flow turns offshore, we may see that threat diminish a little bit. But right now that'll be something that we'll have to kind of watch over the next couple of days. But with so many folks going to the beach, the threat's there, and we need to try to advertise for folks. Be careful. Understand what you're getting into when you get in the water there. Make sure you're at a beach that has a lifeguard, things of that nature. So just to be safe. We want people to enjoy the water, not have issues with it. So looking ahead, tropical wise, there is a potential wave that's out in the central Atlantic right now. It's an area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms at the moment, but the models are showing the potential for some development of this system kind of early next week. So as we come back from the Labor Day holiday, it's possible we could see a depression having formed. Right now, looking at some of the models, they're kind of hinting at developing something somewhere kind of in the northern Leeward Islands and then trying to track it through the Caribbean next week. So just something to keep in mind. No threat at the moment, but as we move into next week, it could be something that we may have to kind of start to monitor for potentially, some impacts down the road. So just, outside of that, really the tropics right now, there really is not a whole lot going on as far as tropical cyclone development. Looking ahead, outlook-wise, getting us to next week, you can see from a precipitation standpoint, maybe slightly above normal, near normal across the area. So again, a lot of that's going to be the latter part of the period, not the initial part of the period, because the beginning part of the period, we're going to have that area of high pressure in place. So temperatures are going to be lower than normal. We'll see a lot of dry air. That's pretty indicative based upon the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, where we're much below normal across the area. So that's generally speaking kind of what we're looking at. We're going to be cold normal. So any of the rainfall, I think, is really going to be on the back end. It's not going to be, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. It'll be more out as we get out toward Friday. As the high pulls off the coast and the moisture begins to return to the north. So that's kind of what the 6 to 10 day outlook has. And so getting back into the highlights, you got your heat advisory in effect today for heat index values of 103 to 107. We're dealing with that cold front that's going to be dropping in from the northeast, bringing afternoon showers and storms today before it stalls out, continuing to threat on Friday, kind of in the Virginia Tidewater, northeast North Carolina area before that front kind of dissolves. And then we're waiting for the next front to come back in from the northwest on Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, and then taking its time getting across the area, clearing sometime later in the day, Monday night. So that's kind of the highlights that we're looking for right now. And hopefully, everybody has a good Labor Day weekend. And we'll be keeping an eye on things. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us. I'm on Slack. We're always available there to answer any questions you guys might have, or you can reach out to us here at the office as well. So thanks, everybody. Everybody have a great holiday weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Won't be on Monday. It'll be on Tuesday. We'll do the briefing coming out of the holiday weekend.